Hey there, folks. Time for a video that's a bit different from the norm. I got a lot of messages, more than usual for this kind of thing, recently, from people asking me, well, something along the lines of, hey Dave, you play a lot of RPGs, what do you think of Divinity Original Sin? Are you going to do a video about it? Blah, 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 blah. Got a surprising number of messages like that. And I knew what Divinity Original Sin was, I just hadn't bothered to really pay much attention to it for whatever reason, so I looked it up, looked interesting, bought it, have played it now for, let's see, I'm about, well, last I checked, Steam said I was 8 hours in. However, you should really take that with a grain of salt, really, because most of that was, well, some of that was with the game running in the background minimized, and a lot of it was with me faffing around trying to figure out how to play the damn game in the first place. So, but suffice to say, I played a little bit of it, and I'm going to do a first impressions video of a sort of it, because people apparently are interested in that sort of thing, so why the heck not? You guys seem to have you seem to have a generally fairly solid idea of what I value in certain video games, especially when it comes to RPGs and stuff like that. I imagine a lot of you are probably interested in this title, and you may be wondering what I think about it, because, you know, your opinions on RPGs and whatnot are fairly similar to mine. So, without further ado, let's do this. So, what is Divinity Original Sin? It is a predominantly, well, I say predominantly single-player RPG. It also does have a co-op mode for reasons that will become fairly obvious momentarily. But it was a Kickstarter title. It began its life as a Kickstarter project, and it's now finally been released. It was on early access for ages on Steam. And I kind of avoided it for that reason, because I don't like buying early access games, but it was in fact released relatively recently, finally. And probably the reason why I didn't pay much attention to it is because, as with a lot of early access games, when they finally do get released, you don't really hear about it very much, because they've been on early access for so long. But anyway, so to kick it off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to go to the options menu, since that seems to be the way these videos generally tend to be done. First impressions videos is not something I do very often. But yeah, let's have a look at the options first. So here's your graphics options for those who are interested. Now, I'm not going to make comments on graphic settings and what should be expected and things like the graphical fidelity in general, actually, because I'm not one of those people who gives two damns really that very much about graphics. Come on, I play Dwarf Fortress, so I don't have a leg to stand on here. But you can see all the graphic settings here. It does have features, unusual, I'm going to call them features, like a frame cap here that you can enable and disable. I have it enabled because it makes it easier to record, as with a lot of games, as that is the case. You want to cap it around something like 60 frames per second or something, to make it easier to record. People who don't record YouTube videos, obviously, you will not need this, and you can uncap it and go nuts, but it's a nice feature to have there anyway. Resolution goes, well, for me it goes up to 1920 by 1080. If you've got a bigger monitor than that, it might go up higher. It has fake full screen with display mode, as well as full screen and window, which is good. I like games that have fake full screen. It makes it life a lot easier for people like me who use dual monitors or more. So yeah, here are your graphics settings, basically. I don't know enough about graphics settings to comment, and I don't care about graphical fidelity enough to comment on that either. I will say the game looks quite nice, and that's about it. So, yeah, first of all, I will walk you through a little bit of character creation, since this is an RPG, and character creation is, as usual, a big, kind of very important part of character creation. I mean, sorry, of the game. Is character creation. So I'm going to show you a bit of character creation, and then I'm going to load into a game I already have going, so I can show you a bit, a bit later on into the game where the gameplay has become rather more developed outside of the tutorial, and so that I can try and hopefully avoid early spoilers and that sort of stuff. So now, yeah, as you can see, you've got single player and you've got multiplayer, and the reason I said the reason there is co-op will become fairly obvious is because once it loads, anyway. There we go. Right, okay, so character creation. As you can see, its character creation would more accurately in this case be described as characters creation. You have two characters here. Now, multiple characters in an RPG you create at the start is not unusual, as RPGs go, generally speaking. You look back at the earlier ones, like the Might and Magic series, for example. You can make up to 4 party members and, you know, use them. However, this game does it a bit differently to a lot of those games, mainly because your characters, well, they kind of have their own personalities, and they will sort of interact with one another in a way that your party members in games like, say, Legend of Grimrock or the old Might and Magic series just didn't do. So you can customize both these characters independently of one another. You have classes here, as you can see: Ranger, Knight, Fighter, blah 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 blah, Enchanter, Cleric. There's quite a few, as you can see here. But these aren't really classes in the traditional RPG sense. They're really more presets. And I'll show you what I mean. If I go to customize here, see, it says here, select a preset. You've got Fighter, Knight, Rogue, Shadowblade, blah, 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 whatever. And basically all this does is sets you up with a bunch of starting stats and skills and things appropriate to this particular quote-unquote class, basically. You've also got all your, you know, fairly standard customization options here, male, female. You can only be human, of course. I believe the game has other races in it, but the only playable ones are humans. You can choose a voice.
Perhaps I can detonate that explosive from a... What could that have done?
Perhaps I can detonate that explosive from a distance.
As you can see, people who've played older BioWare RPGs like Baldur's Gate or actually Dragon Age or Neverwinter Nights or whatever will be familiar with this thing. Skin color, all this, you know, ridiculous customization options are here, you know. Not as much as you might like, really. You get to pick a face, and then you can pick your hair, and then you can change the color of your skin and your hair and whatnot. Don't expect sort of Elder Scrolls level of being able to tweak and pinch and change every single aspect of a character's appearance, because that's not what this game is doing. And this game is a sort of it's played from a top-down perspective, so you're zoomed out most of the time. Your character's appearance is really seriously unimportant. You also pick a portrait up here in the same vein as a lot of older RPGs. Unfortunately, as you can see, there aren't actually that many of them, so if you're a bit OCD and you don't like the idea of your character's portrait not matching their appearance, you might have a problem here. I don't really know why they decided to add portraits into the game, because this is the 21st century and we are able to do 3D snapshots of people's faces. As you've seen if you've played something like Dragon Age, these drawn portraits are a nice idea, but I was never a huge fan of them when you could just sort of take a snapshot of the character you designed yourself. But anyway, that's by the by. It's kind of unimportant, ultimately. So anyway, you've got these presets, but as you can see here, you can go customize again. And now you can go through all the different skills available. And there is a bit of a dizzying amount of them for a brand new player. I was a little bit overwhelmed when I saw all these myself. And you have a certain amount of points to spend to begin with. You can take out these, and you can put it into other stuff. And basically completely customize your character to be, to play exactly the way you want them to, with the exact kind of weapons and skills you want them to. You got your talents here, which are kind of like perks, I guess. Lots of different ones. Increases carrying weight, for example. 50% extra damage against opponents that are slowed, crippled, or knocked down. I believe there's one that lets you talk to animals, believe it or not, which can influence the way you complete some quests, which is kind of interesting, actually. But yeah, there's lots of interesting talents and things like that. And you've got starting skills as well. Your attributes, it's the standard strength, dexterity, intelligence, constitution, blah, 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 kind of D&D style thing going on. But you've also got your skills. And there's a whole bunch of different disciplines. You can see here, man-at-arms, marksman, scoundrel, pyrokinetic, hydro, whatever, you know. Standard fantasy bullshit, magical stuff. And there's quite a few abilities for you to pick in here. So if I remove that, and I can now go ahead and pick something else. Let's say, can we have flair? Oh, no, we can't have flair because we're not trained in pyrokinetics. So let's see, pyrokinetics. So we need to point in that, which means we can now go to pyrokinetics and we can have, say, burning touch. So as you can see, basically, every aspect of the character can be customized in some way or fashion. Even though it's got the classes there, you can change and mix and match everything, you know, the way you'd want to. Don't have the required abilities for the skill. I don't care, game. Let me go back. It's gonna be a pain in the arse, isn't it? Ugh. Cure wounds, was that what it was originally? I think. Oh, I give up. Main menu. Anyway, that's basically the gist of character creation. You have these two characters. And there was one thing actually in there which I did forget to mention just now before I quit out. Didn't have a choice though because it locked me in there. Is that you can select an AI personality for each of your characters. Now, this is kind of important, and the game does not explain it in a remotely helpful fashion. If you're brand new to the game and you're not really sure how everything works. It's called AI personalities, or is it? I think it might just be called AI, full stop, or whatever. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that might have something to do with combat in this game. No, it doesn't. Not even slightly. What it actually is... Maybe I can just load it up again and show you. What it actually is it controls the way your character that you've got selected when you're creating it. It controls the way that specific character will react and act in dialogue and during quests in the game. I actually, originally, when I started playing this game, I thought it was something to do with combat, because, you know, the way it's kind of listed and stuff, it seems to give that impression. They looked kind of like AI presets for how the character was going to behave in combat when not under your control or something like that, but combat in this game doesn't work like that. This game actually has turn-based combat, for those who don't realize, which means that nothing is under AI control except the enemies. Alright, there we go, edited out the loading screen because it's taking its sweet time again. But here, if you can see what I mean, if I go to here, AI personality, right, so you got no AI, loyal, random, knight, rascal, maniac, judge, priest, free, spirit, no AI. And like I said, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was something to do with combat, especially given the way it's sort of described here. I mean, there's no tooltip here handily explaining what this is or what it does, but no, this is how your character will behave, basically. You will note that I mentioned that your characters will interact with one another. And the AI personality you pick here, you can pick no AI if the whole interaction thing pisses you off, and I wouldn't blame you if it did, because it sometimes can get quite annoying, but more on that later. You could choose no AI, but you've also got a bunch of others. I, stupidly, for one of my characters, picked Maniac, which made them incredibly difficult. One of my two party members incredibly difficult to deal with whenever it came to certain moral dilemmas we were supposed to be making. The first character was supposed to be a kind of paladin knight good character, and this one I was probably going to be something along the same lines, except I picked Maniac for the personality, thinking it would be a sort of berserking, all-out combat kind of, well, combat AI, basically. But no, it turned out I'd basically turned this guy into a raving lunatic whenever it came to certain moral dilemmas I was trying to make. And because of the way in which the system in which your characters interact with one another has been implemented in this game, if you're unaware of what this does, and you pick something like Maniac, it can really kick you in the arse later. But anyway, what I'm going to do now, I think I'm going to go into the game itself. I'm going to load up my current save, and I'm going to show you guys well, the rest of the game itself. And I will tell you the pros and cons, basically, because this game seems to have them in equal measure. And we're in the game. I skipped the loading screens because they were taking their sweet time once again. And here we are, we're in the game. Like I said, about 8 to 9 hours into the game. One thing I can tell you is that this game seems to be, at least from what I've gathered so far, I mean, without knowing how long it takes for you to finish it and how many areas are in the game, it's difficult to say, but from what I can tell, this game is bloody long. It's quite time-consuming, so if that's what you're looking for in an RPG, well, this game's got it in spades. But for the most part, it isn't sort of artificially drawn-out length. There isn't a lot of filler content in this game. Most of the stuff you do in this game is actually, you know, in some way or another, quite interesting. You get a lot of quests to do. As you can see here, my journal's full of the buggers. And none of them are sort of boring, you know, randomly generated side quest type rubbish. They all sort of have very specific objectives, and they're all very different from one another. So that's, you know, nice. Because nothing is worse in an RPG than having crappy quests to do. So, I'm going to leave the city right now. We'll come back here later, probably. I'm going to charge off into the hills here, and we're going to see if we can get ourselves into a bit of combat, because that's one of the key sort of pillars of this game, really, the turn-based combat. And I'm quite keen to show it to you guys. So, oh, hello. That didn't take long. Right, so as you can see, it's now gone into this sort of turn-based mode, and you've got your list at the top of the screen here of all the sort of participants in this combat involved. Good grief, there's a lot of them. This is going to be, wow, more on difficulty later, because that's a bit of an issue with this game. But anyway, yeah, as you can see, you've got all the people involved here, and this is also the initiative order. It, you know, it follows a sort of, well, it's initiative based. If you're familiar with pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons or whatnot, very similar thing here. Or even if you played other games like, for example, Omerta City of Gangsters, or even the old Fallout games, Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, this is very similar. You have action points. Characters have certain numbers of action points. They have actions they can take, special abilities and things which cost action points. And you act in order of initiative. So as you can see here, my first 3 characters here, Dave, Jahan, and Medora here, are both NPCs, basically, that I've recruited. But you can see these 3 have the highest initiative, so they go first, followed by an undead archer, an undead priest, and then Bertha here, who is she's actually the party leader, which means she doesn't get the leadership bonuses that these guys do, which actually boost these guys' initiative. So she usually goes after them. So yeah, we've got 4 characters here. This one is a kind of this guy here is a battle mage. So he's a mix between a sort of a fighter and a mage or a wizard or whatever. Got Bertha, who's a knight, who is kind of a paladin type class. She can do a bit of healing. She's mostly sort of there to buff her allies and stuff, but she can fight as well. We've got a warrior in the form of Medora here, and we've got a wizard in the form of Jahan here, who I believe he's focused on air magic. So that's, you know, in layman's terms, loads and loads of lightning and shock spells, basically. So, right, so I'm going to walk through this combat, try not to fail horribly at it, and we'll see how we get on. Let's not do anything too drastic here. We've got a nice little choke point here, I guess. Let's go with encourage. Give all our allies a bit of a buff. There we go. We'll end his turn because he's done. Got no more action points. And let's kick this off with a lightning bolt, I guess, on one of these zombie boars. They're all level 5. My party's level 4. That's a bit of an issue in this game. The difficulty. Now, we did a bit of damage to him, though. We didn't stun him, though, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. The combat in this game is good. It's fun. I quite like it. I enjoy this sort of turn-based combat. I've said before, actually, that in RPGs like this sort of the top-down variety, I prefer turn-based combat, actually, to sort of your pausable, real-time variety. There we go, now we're going to buff to melee damage. And let's do a Crushing Fist if we can. Try and knock him down. Yeah, we did knock him over, right. That's got him immobilized for at least a turn, I think. And yeah, we'll just sit tight, wait for them to come to us, I think. We might have to push up, though, because I've just noticed they have an undead priest, who's probably going to cause us lots of problems, but we've got a bit of cover here from these rocks. While we're down here on the bright side, maybe he'll come to us. Maybe he'll be stupid and do that. We'll see. Let's see. Bertha seems to be in archer mode at the minute, which is fine by me. Let's see if we can set these guys on fire. There we go. Bit more damage. Yeah, the combat in this game is difficult. By default, the game starts you off on normal difficulty. You can adjust it if you want to. Nothing fancy, you just get 3 modes, easy, normal, and hard. I'm currently playing this in easy mode. And the reason for that is because the combat in this game is really freaking hard. And it's not just that the combat system itself demands a lot from the player. It's actually that the game seems to be very weirdly balanced. Typically, through most of this earlier part of the game I've been playing through, pretty much every enemy you encounter will always be like a level higher than you. See, these guys are all level 5, we're level 4, and we're only level 4 after me having done a lot of faffing around, basically grinding by killing lower level mobs, which is not something I usually expect to have to do in a Western RPG like this, but hey, let's move you up over here by these rocks. And let's, let's see, another lightning bolt, methinks? Yeah, why not? As you can see here, the spells and abilities don't rely on mana or anything like that, they're just on a cooldown for a number of turns. Let's move you up a little bit as well, use up the last of those action points. I could do something potentially a bit reckless here and charge straight up the middle into this boar's face and then face the wrath of everything waiting around here. But this character is particularly good when she does get surrounded because she has this Dust Devil ability which does area of effect damage all around her. So I'm going to do it. And there we go. You'll notice a bit of, you may have noticed a bit of a stutter there when I did that. I don't yet know if that's unique to the game or whether it's a problem with my system. This sort of occasional stuttering I'm getting here. Your mileage may vary on that issue. Aside from that, the game does actually seem to be remarkably well optimized, so... mind you, graphically speaking, it's not exactly cutting edge. I mean, it looks nice, but, you know, it gets the job done, but it's not something that's probably going to tax your system too much, I imagine, especially since the combat is turn-based, after all. Let's see. I might want to switch to melee and charge right on in here, actually, but I'm not sure. In fact, I think I will, for the simple reason that I'd like Bertha with her healing ability right up in the middle of the fray, actually, if possible. However, there is a big cloud of poison here, and poison in this game is flammable. The magic system with regards to oh, that didn't do anything. Crap, never mind. I was hoping for more there. The magic system in this game is kind of elemental based, and the elements sort of interact with one another in a quite interesting way in that, for example, fire like this you can put out by using water spells. If you manage to get an enemy wet by using a rain spell on him or something like that, or you happen to be in the rain at the time, shock spells against them will be more effective, and so on and so on and so on. Poison is flammable, so if you meet poisonous creatures, like zombies for example, you can usually get rid of them quite easily by using fire magic of one sort or another. Let's see if we can... no, let's see. For example, a good example is this bitter cold spell here. Now, if we use this, we would chill the boar, which would give him a bunch of debuffs. But if we were to use instead this rain spell first, which I think I'm going to do, actually... very wide area of effect, as you can see. There we go. Everything is now wet, so he doesn't have enough action points left to do it. But if we were now to use chill on this boar here, instead of just simply giving a bunch of debuffs, it would actually freeze him completely and immobilize him, because the fact that he's wet amplifies the effect of the cold spell. So the elements kind of all interact like that in quite a cool way. You'll notice actually these embers here are dying down as well because they're becoming wet because of the rain. You know, and this works outside of combat too. There are certain quests you can resolve that way. For example, early on in the game when you first wander into town, you will find... these guys are probably immune to this, but I'm going to do it anyway. You find a ship that's on fire in the harbour, and you can basically put out the fire by using a rain spell like this. And the townsfolk will be very grateful, as you can probably imagine. So, it's a nice way to do the whole elemental magic thing, have them interact in that sort of a way. A lot of RPGs don't do that, and it's a wasted opportunity, because if you're going to have a sort of very elemental orientated system, why not do it like that? Because otherwise, ultimately, I feel, you know, if you've got your fire magic and shock... Sorry, fire magic and shock? What? Fire, frost, and shock spells. And you're not having them interact in this kind of a way, what's the point in having them? Really, because all they are is the same spell, just with, you know, a different sort of graphical effect attached to them, I suppose. Let's see if we can freeze the priest. So that will help us immensely if we can. Yeah, you're frozen. Now, what are you going to do? Huh. Let's move up a bit further here so we can do some more supporting fire. Right, let's see if we can... I don't think that's actually going to hit this boar here, so... However, moving her right now would not give her enough action points left to be able to do the Dust Devil ability, so I think what I'm just going to do is straight up smack him in the face. Why not? There we go. Did a fair old bit of damage, so can we hit him again? No, not enough action points left over. You can hit end turn right now, and you'll notice, yeah, action points reserved. Which means next turn I will be able to use the action points I didn't spend this turn, which will allow me to attack maybe two times quickly in succession, for example. Now, I'm out of fire arrows, which is kind of annoying, because it would have been great to drop one right here in the middle of this poison cloud and set these guys on fire. But since I can't do that, let's see. Let's switch out of the bow. I really should have hotkeyed this, but hey, never mind. Let's go to the outdated executioner's sword, and she can't do anything else other than just move up. So we'll do that. There we go. Now we're doing okay here. We've gone down to half health in some respects. But up against enemies who are a level higher than us, I guess that's kind of to be expected. Did a bit of damage there. Can't really do anything else, so let's just skip ahead. What we can do, though, is shock this guy for extra damage on account of him being wet. Oh, and they're all standing in a puddle, which means they've also been stunned. Nice. See, as you can see, it's the elemental magic system in effect. You know, guys are standing in a puddle or in water, and you use electricity on them. This happens. It's great. I love it. Alright, let's see if we can smack him in the face again. There we go. Awesome. Nice. Now, he has exploded a bunch of poisonous crap on the ground here, which if we walk into it, we will get poisoned. So that's worth bearing in mind. In addition, if we walk into this electrified puddle here, we'll get stunned. So, for the minute, we're actually kind of stuck here because we've got poisonous crap on the ground here, we've got the electrified puddle, and we've got a cloud of gas over here, so I think she's going to have to stay put for now. Okay, we're doing okay. I've got potions left over. I think we'll be alright. Let's see if we can maybe try and move over here. Set these guys on fire. Oh, we're poisoned anyway now. I guess it doesn't matter. Screw it. Move up. And, can he drink a potion right now? Yeah, he can. There we go. Okay. Right, this turn, you can do a bit of healing magic on him. That will continue to heal him, I think, for another 3 turns. Yeah, 28 health points per turn. So that's useful. You also get healing potions, obviously, but you can't spam them on account of the fact that it costs action points to take one. So you can't just sort of march into combat with 12 healing potions per character and then expect to win, because it doesn't really work like that. And I think that's probably a good thing, actually, as well. Let's see if we can't go and deal with you. We got poisoned anyway. It doesn't matter. It'll wear off eventually. Shouldn't do too much damage. Anyway, as I keep trying to say, and I keep getting sidetracked, I'm playing on easy difficulty here. And the reason for that is the game is hard. It's really bloody tough. More than I was expecting it to be. And like I said before, it's partly due to the way that this game is balanced more than anything else. At pretty much every example outside of the initial tutorial area where you get into combat in this game, you seem to be up against enemies that are at least a level higher than you, which is really kind of strange to me. It could be that I'm just simply doing it wrong, and people are going to be shouting, "Get good, scrub!" And to those people I say, one, you know, I'm approaching this from the perspective of a new player who's not played the game before, which loads of people are going to be coming at this game from. So it's a valid criticism. And two, fuck off, this isn't Dota 2. You know, on your bike, shove off. This is a single player, predominantly anyway, RPG. So, for one instance, yeah, you keep going up against enemies who are at least a level higher than you, and because of the way this game works in terms of stats and balancing and stuff like that, that's a really big deal. If I was playing this on normal right now, I would be dead by now, no question. Now, as I said, this could be just due to the fact that I'm crap at the game, and that will be a fair criticism. Actually, let's try and do the head vice thing. Never mind, I balls that up completely. Or whatever. Could be to do with the fact that I'm not very good at the game. It could be to do with the fact that my initial character builds weren't very good, and that could very well be the case, actually, to be fair. I wouldn't be at all surprised, but considering I'm playing the game for the first time, and, you know, I didn't understand what half the skills and stuff did when I was making the characters in the first place, as most people who approach this game for the first time won't either. I feel I can be excused, at least a bit. And yeah, and I ran around doing as many sort of peaceful side quests in the town as I could before I kind of got into serious combat outside the town. And even then, I was still sort of very much outclassed by my enemies. Now, that maybe designed that way. It may be that I'm playing the game wrong, and the fact that they're a level higher than me is expected, and it's, you know, you're just supposed to be able to deal with it. But I haven't been able to, unfortunately. Half the problem I think with this game is it actually doesn't explain a lot of stuff very well. In fact, kind of annoyingly, it explains a lot of stuff not at all, in fact. Good example, I'll show you a little bit of later if I can, is the crafting system in this game. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that this game didn't have a crafting system on account of the fact that at no point in this game, including the tutorial, is how to craft stuff even mentioned. I had to actually exit the game, go online and look for a guide. Oops, I think I just stunned Medora. Whoops. Sorry. I had to go out of the game and look for a guide online to how crafting worked. And even then, it took a little while to figure out. Or because the game just didn't tell you how it worked, or that it was even a thing. It kind of dumbfounds me a little bit, actually. And the same goes for a lot of stuff in this game. It sort of, I guess, wants you to learn by trial and error, but that can be kind of annoying, frankly. It looks like we've got this in the bag for the most part. Let's try and use the head vice thing. Didn't manage to blind it, but never mind. That never seems to work, to be honest. Maybe it doesn't work on undead or something. Alright. How are people doing for health? Okay, Medora's not doing so great. Probably because I just electrocuted her, but fine. Oh yeah, she really needs help. Can we try and knock this guy down? Or we can outright kill him. That'll do it. End. Get a bit of healing on you. She's not in any immediate danger now, though, so I guess it's not that big a deal. It just would be nice to spare myself a resurrect scroll. If characters die in this, you can resurrect them with a resurrect scroll. However, if your two main characters die in the middle of combat, and your two NPCs, for example, in this case, are still alive, it's still game over. Apparently, these two NPCs don't give a damn about you and won't try to resurrect you with their resurrect scrolls if you die. So that's something to bear in mind, actually. You want to keep these guys safe if at all possible, because you will lose the entire combat if they both die, even if the others are alive still, so... That's kind of a pain in the ass, but fine. Whatever. Smack. There we go. Combat dealt with. Now, as you can see, I mean, I was talking over a lot of it there and trying to explain stuff, but combat in this game is kind of lengthy. It takes a little while. You don't get overly spammed with monsters, and generally combat seems to devolve into these large encounters with a lot of enemies, and then you'll move on a bit further, and then you'll probably get to another encounter with a bunch of enemies somewhere along here. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, the difficulty is an issue in this game. It could be, like I said, the fact that I'm doing it wrong, which I've repeated probably far too many times, but whatever. I'm doing this without notes, so God help me. But it could be to do with the fact that the game is just a little weirdly balanced, and I'm inclined to believe it may be the latter. Because this isn't the actual combat isn't the only instance of this game throwing random sort of bullshit stupidity at you, frankly. That and the lack of explanation for a lot of elements of the game, like the crafting system, they are not alone. In fact, to show you a particularly annoying example, let's just save this right now. I'm going to load up a previous save, which I set aside specifically for this video. Now, this may or may not be considered a criticism of the game by many people. Some people are going to like the difficulty. I mean, if you're someone who really, really gets a kick out of studying character builds very carefully and planning very carefully and stuff like that, you're probably going to enjoy this game quite a lot, because that seems to be the way to deal with this game on normal or higher difficulty. That's really the way you have to do it. Unfortunately, I am too lazy and too stupid to do that, so I do my best, you know, I try to intelligently pick my abilities and, you know, try to sort of enact combos and stuff using the environment as best I can, but clearly that's not enough. I think my character builds probably just suck. I'm not using scrolls enough or potions enough or whatever. But even with all that aside, you get things like this. Yeah, that just happened. That's a thing. So basically what happened there, you can probably guess, is there were some traps there of some description. This game has traps in it. Most of the time, they're not too big a deal, because you can see the pressure plate or whatever, and you can sort of negotiate your way around it. You can probably put a character into sneak mode, for example. This game does have a stealth system, which I shall demonstrate. This game also has a bit of an issue with, well, tone. It sometimes fails to set a very, consistent tone, because one minute you'll be dealing with some fairly dark subject matter, doing a quest, slaughtering lots of dudes, the story obviously taking itself very seriously, and then you get this sort of Metal Gear Solid-esque shenanigans going on here. I mean, I like the fact that the game has a sense of humor, but I wish it was more consistent. But anyway, yeah, there you go. That's the stealth system. I haven't played around with it very much, for reasons you can probably readily see. Besides, I don't have any stealthy characters. But anyway, around here, there are these traps. And, well, I can't see them, can you? It's not these things. These are just torches. Just random oh, God. Oh, good grief. But yeah, I can't see them anywhere. Now, I imagine if we had higher perception... Yeah, ability to detect traps, there you go. We'd be able to see those traps. So that's kind of fair enough for the... Christ almighty. For the most part. For the... Thank you, Orc NPC off the side there. That was kind of appropriate, weirdly so. But as you can see, it's a bit of an issue if you don't have a stealthy character with high perception in your party. And you have every reason not to have a character like that in your party, because neither of the NPCs you can pick up in this section of the game, those being Medora and Jahan, they're not stealthy NPCs with high perception. She's a fighter, he's a wizard. So in order to avoid these random bullshit deaths from incredibly overpowered traps, you basically have to pick a stealthy character at the beginning, and if you're new to the game like I was and didn't understand why that was important, you might not. You might decide to do what I did and go with a battle mage and a knight, or whatever. I think we're going the wrong way here. Or are we? It's difficult to tell. We currently need to get down to... it's probably easier if I just show you the map. There we go. I need to get down to there. It's part of the main quest that I'm doing at the minute. And it's not immediately obvious how to get there. This game has a bit of an issue, actually, with directions when it comes to quests. You often sort of encounter bits of the game, like I did before, actually, where they will say an NPC will say to you, "Oh, you should go and see Rob the Mortician, because of this, and that reason as part of this quest you're doing." However, he neglects to tell you where Rob the Mortician is, or where the morgue is in the town. You're basically just left to your own devices to find it for yourself, and that's not in a particularly intelligent way either, because the only way you can do it is just by aimlessly wandering around until you find it. It's not as if you can ask people for directions like a normal, sane human being would. You just sort of left to your own devices. It gets particularly infuriating, actually, with some side quests, an example of which, well, a couple of examples of which I can show you here. Like, for example, Legionnaires at the church. Aureus informed us about an expedition of Legionnaires sent to the old church in Sicile. The Legionnaires have been gone for quite some time, and Aureus doesn't know what has become of them. You should try to find them. At no point does this Aureus fellow remember to tell you where this church is, at all. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any serious quest tracking system here. There's waypoints for, I think, certain parts of the main quest, as you can see here, Evelyn's Secret Lair and Evelyn's House, for instance. But it doesn't. There's no quest tracking system for your minor quests, and I'm sure that's fine for the sadistic minority that like to not have quest markers telling them where shit is when the NPCs refuse to describe where said shit is. But for the rest of us, that's kind of a pain in the ass. I still, to this day, have not found where this stupid church is, and I've had that quest for ages now. I got that quest, in fact, very early on in the game. I still haven't found the goddamn church. He gave me another quest to go check out a lighthouse, and I only managed to find this lighthouse by pure dumb luck. For those wondering, it's down here. Okay, so if you're going to play the game and you're wondering where the bloody hell that lighthouse is he's talking about, it's over there. So, yeah, that's another issue I have with the game. So, okay, that's not a good sign. Random autosave out of nowhere. As you can see, you can quick save as well. So quick saving is a good idea, as one of the in-game loading screens will actually tell you quick saving in this game is good for your blood pressure, and I would heartily agree. The chest is too hot to touch, it's burning. Well, then I believe I probably have a solution to this problem. Well, first off, let's heal some of our party members. You don't heal over time outside of combat. And there doesn't appear to be any kind of resting system either. You don't appear to be able to go to an inn or something and rest, or just sort of set up camp and rest to regain hit points. You pretty much just have to either drink potions or rely on having a healer in the party with a healing ability, like Jahan here. I can't remember his bloody name now. Christ, fantasy character names, not one of my strong suits. What can I say? What's your damn name? Yeah, there it is, Jahan. And this is okay, because all I have to do is wait for it to cool down, and then I can cast it again, but it's annoyingly time-consuming, and if I didn't have a healing character, if I just decided I didn't want to pick this guy up, or I didn't find him, because he was hidden away in a bit of an obscure kind of a place, actually, you'd be kind of boned, actually. You regain your health when you level up, and correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. If there is some resting mechanic which allows you to regain your health, let me know. But it does not regenerate outside of combat. As you can see, it's not changing one iota. So that's another slightly irritating features, shall we say. Anyway, let's see if we can put out this fire here with a bit of rain. What the? Okay, the ornate chest decided to go walkies. Fine.
You're too fat. You're too slow.
Comments about my appearance, ornate chest.
Grab me then if you can.
How about I shoot you instead? That's doing nothing to it. You can bash open containers in this game, which is nice, because I'm sick of games not letting you do that with your melee characters, but apparently I can't bash open this chest. Right, fine, we'll humour the sodding thing and we'll go after it. Just as soon as I re-equip my sword. Bloody hell's it gone? There it is. As you can see, this is another amusing side quest that kind of came out of nowhere. What I will say is, like I said earlier, this game has a lot of stuff to do in it. That mostly comes from exploring. For example, earlier I happened to just be wandering around. I found a shovel and decided to dig up some graves in the graveyard, as you do. Oh, an exploding skeleton.
I'll blow you to insane bits.
Really? Well, I sincerely bloody hope not. Let's see if we can just get him with a ranged attack, because, yep, he will explode in our faces! Now what's... Oh, the chest is burning again, wonderful. And we need to heal people! Again! There's a lot to do. Anyway, like I said, I was wandering around the graveyard, decided to dig up a grave, turned out there was a secret passage under it, and it went into a cave where there was, you know, stuff to fight, and chests to loot and things, and that was pretty cool. It wasn't part of any particular quests, it was just there for you to sort of stumble across and explore, and I like that. I like that a lot. Having a nicely designed world is one of the... Ooh, hello. That's kind of a nice looking weapon. I love that. And a skill book. Geomancer based spells. Ah, crap, I don't have a Geomancer, but never mind. We'll keep it around in case we at some point do get a point or two in Geomancy. Yeah. Half of what makes an RPG good, in my opinion, is how well its world is designed, and the world in this is fairly well designed. I mean, it's not very big, generally speaking. This entire area seems to constitute pretty much the entire part of the game that we're in at the minute. I imagine there's sort of a chapter-based system where we finish up everything in here, and then we'll move on to some new part of the world or whatever. But even though this isn't very big, there's lots of stuff to do. As I said, I'm like 9 hours into this now, possibly more than that. And, you know, I'm perhaps not that far into the main quests per se, but this whole 9 hours is I've had interesting things to do. In fact, probably part of the reason why it's taken me this long to get this far is because I've been sidetracked by all the interesting shit there is to explore. So that definitely is something the game has got going in its favour. I really am starting to get lost. Right, okay, this is the cave I think I need to get to. So what, we got more undead mages and stuff. Now, I'd hoped to, by this point, show you guys an example of the kind of NPC interaction in this game. And since I haven't been able to do that, I'm actually going to see if I can load up a previous save and show you guys an example of it, because it's kind of an important part of the game, and I have 1 or 2 issues with it, so I think it's worth bringing up. So bear with me, I will return momentarily. Okay, so I've loaded up a slightly earlier save where I've just finished dealing with the lighthouse quest, which I mentioned earlier, that's over here. Now, the gist of this quest, I won't go into too much detail, is that we've come up here to investigate what happened to a bunch of legionaries that came up here to check the place out. Turns out there's only 2 of them left, because the rest of them have been killed off by all the skeletons that are sort of wandering around in this general area. And these 2 have told us, can you go and check out the place for us? Because basically we're big fraidy cats and we don't want to go up there. And, you know, justifiably so, since there are 7 of them and now there's only 2 of them left. So we've been up there, and we've come back down now, and we're going to go speak to them and tell them what we found, etc, etc. But what it's going to do is, yeah, it's going to prompt a bit of a sort of conflict between the 2 characters here, Dave and Bertha. And this is a fairly important part of the game in terms of the way your main characters react to one another. So I'm going to walk you through it and show you how it works. So how did it go? Don't spare any details, but I need to make a full report to the captain. Now that's an interesting story, blah 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 blah. Now, here we go. As you can see, this is Dave talking here. He's interjecting. He's saying, don't let them off so easily. These gas bags shouldn't reap a single benefit from their cowardice. So he's being a bit of a dickhead, basically, and that's because I unwittingly selected the maniac personality for him. So, whereas Bertha here is sort of very altruistic, you know, typical paladin-type character by comparison. So obviously these two tend to have a lot of arguments, which can get quite annoying. And I'll show you why it's quite annoying in a second. So we've got a bunch of options here. We can try and intimidate him into, you know, doing what we say. Charm him into doing what we say, and we can try and reason with him. And I imagine each of these different intimidate, charm, or reason things are based on different stats. I'm just not entirely sure what. I know for a fact that I have points in charm because I put them into charm. But I don't know what these other two are based off. Intimidate might be based off strength or something, and reason off intelligence, I'm not really sure. But either way, we can either agree to just basically do it his way, or we can argue with him. So I'm going to choose to argue with him. Which brings up this. Basically, we are now going to play rock, paper, scissors with our other party member. If you can believe it. Now, it remains unclear to me as to whether or not they are literally playing rock, paper, scissors, or whether it's simply supposed to represent the argument they're having, but whatever. Obviously, as you can see, we can choose rock, paper, or scissors. I'm going to go with rock. Oh dear, we lost. We supposedly have an advantage in this because we have points in charm. So he's a charm 3, but then again, he's got intimidate 3, so I guess we're on an even footing here. Let's try scissors. But, oh look, miraculously he's managed to pick stone. Let's try paper. Oh, we actually won for once. But do you see how bloody arbitrary this is? Scissors. Nope, there we go. Lost again. You know, so not only is this, seemingly completely bloody random. I mean, 1, it's an annoying minigame. 2, it's completely and utterly random. And 3, I'm pretty sure the AI cheats half the time because it is kind of uncanny the number of times where I've been beaten with this. The majority of these arguments have come up here with between these two. I have lost the argument depending on who, you know, if I've lost it basically, and I've had to go what the other party member wanted to do. I mean, I don't know the mechanics of it. Certainly, they never seem to pick the same one at the same time, so that's not in there, which leads me to believe it's not completely random, and therefore, yeah, I guess the AI probably does cheat. Let's go with scissors. We're probably going to lose, though. Oh, no, we managed to get a few more points. Rock? No, there we go, we're fucked. He's going to get his way again, and, yeah, there we go. Alright, we'll do it your way, continue. Be that way, you nobody could do it. Yeah, and we've basically been a dickhead to them, and our reputation's probably been reduced as well. And so on and so on and so on. And it's annoying. It's genuinely annoying. It really is. This isn't the only example of this kind of annoying stuff happening as well. For example, when I wanted to hire this character here, she's kind of a bit of a mad lady. She's sort of part of this order of... well, we're not really witch hunters, but I'm going to call it witch hunters, so I don't have to spoil the plot, and so that you get the general gist of what I'm talking about. And basically, this lady kind of tends to see evil magic where there is none half the time. She's a bit eccentric and a bit mad. And when I tried to hire her, he took issue with it. He said, oh, she's completely and utterly mad, she'll bring us more trouble than it's worth. Now, then basically that closed the dialogue completely. Him saying, nope, more trouble than she's worth, closed the dialogue, and she told us to bugger off. And that's an issue for a couple of reasons. One, because it's interfering with what I as a player want to do. I mean, and 2, it's a bit of an issue because in this game, the game itself is balanced around you having a party of 4. If you go wandering out into the wilderness to battle monsters and stuff with anything less than 4 characters, unless you're really good at the game, or maybe you're playing on easy, you will get beaten. The game is simply balanced for 4 characters. So having you not being able to hire a character arbitrarily because of one of your character's personality traits is kind of cool from a role-playing perspective, but really, really fucking annoying as a player. What makes this even more stupid, though, is the fact that you can completely bypass it by simply selecting this guy, as was the case at the time, and then talking to the character in question, and then that way I was allowed to pick his dialogue options, and I was able to say, yep, come with us, and because of her personality, she had no issue with that. So basically, I had this weird scenario whereby he was like, no, we can't take her with us, she's bad. And I was like, well, fine. So I switched to him, clicked on there, and then he was immediately like, oh yes, absolutely, come with us. So it completely mucked up this kind of idea that he was totally against it, because the game basically just let me override it and pick it anyway. Now, you could argue from perhaps a gameplay perspective that's a good thing, because it allows you to sort of, circumnavigate the sort of stupidity of the kind of way that works. But at the same time, if you can basically avoid it entirely and bypass it like that, what's the point of having it there in the first place? I don't understand that at all. So anyway, I think we can need a moment to reflect, because doing that basically altered our alignment slightly. Source hunters ought to be as altruistic as I, without exception. Yeah, there we go. You've quite trended towards altruism, haven't you? There we go. So there is an alignment system in this game. I can show you that right now. Traits, there you go. And this is only for your two main characters. Your other NPCs, they don't have this. But as you can see here, it's not a specific good and evil type thing. It's actually a bunch of characteristics which you sort of trend towards one or the other. For example, pragmatic versus romantic, independent versus obedient, righteous versus renegade. As you can probably tell, she's a goody two-shoes, so she's very obedient, whereas Dave is independent as fuck, which is why half my dialogues with other NPCs are so annoying. Righteous, cautious, altruistic. She was previously egotistical, but doing that has actually switched her over to altruistic. So these are dynamic, these can move around and you control the way they move through certain actions and quests and that sort of thing and whatnot. So ultimately, I suppose I probably could solve some of Dave's issues by simply making him party leader for a bit, making him do a lot of the talking and sort of alter his attitudes, basically, by just picking options that I want to sort of shape his personality with. But at the same time, that feels a bit artificial. I'm not sure I like the idea of it. Now, one of the thing worth pointing out actually is that you do get bonuses for being one or the other. For example, he's vindictive rather than forgiving, which means that he receives a chance to hit bonus of 20% on attacks of opportunity in combat. So that's kind of cool. I like the idea of your alignment, if you want to call it that, in a way, actually having a tangible gameplay effect like that. That's kind of cool. I do like that. But again, it's just problems with the way it's implemented. A lot of my issues with this game come down to, it's a nice idea, why did you implement it that way? For example, I like the idea of my player-controlled, player-created characters interacting with one another or arguing with one another over certain issues. I mean, I've often found it a bit odd in games like, say, Mass Effect or Dragon Age or whatever, where my party members might get a bit miffed with a decision I'd made. Like, everyone's familiar with that good old Morrigan disapproves message that we've seen so very many times. But they wouldn't go much beyond that. They'd get a little bit annoyed, and then maybe later on, if you pissed them off enough, they would leave. But they wouldn't actively argue with you and try to persuade you that you were wrong and say, no, fuck you, we're doing it my way. And to an extent, I kind of like that idea, because it takes what would have been a bland sort of minion, basically, like it is actually really in those other games I mentioned, like the Might and Magic games, Legend of Grimrock, whatever. You name any old RPG where you can actually make multiple party members, that's all they are. They're just minions for you to command. They have no real personalities of their own, whereas these two do. This guy is basically a raving lunatic. I didn't intend to design him as a raving lunatic, but he's sort of become one, and I'm kind of okay with that to an extent. It makes it a bit more interesting. The way they both play off with against one another, but Do I necessarily think that the way they implemented it in the form of this bizarre rock, paper, scissors minigame is a good idea? Well, probably not, to be honest. Now, obviously, and you saw in character creation there was an option to just hit no AI, which presumably, I've not tested this, but presumably it just basically means that none of that minigame nonsense happens. So, I guess you can do that, but again, that's just one extreme, going from one extreme to another, going from way too much sort of argy-bargy and interfering with the player to none whatsoever.
Your return marks a victory, Hunter. We'll vanquish our foes yet.
So, I mean, on the whole, I guess I like that it's there. It's something interesting. It makes this. It's a thing that makes this RPG fairly unique, I guess. Because on the whole, as this goes, this RPG is. There aren't a lot of things about it that are unique. It's very much a conglomeration of previous features from previous RPGs that I've liked. For example, it's got a combat system a bit like Fallout. It has a barter system, which I can actually show you, that's a little bit like Fallout. Let's see if we can wander off and find any old NPC. Now, some of you may remember from the original Fallout, you could pretty much barter with any NPC you came across, as is the case in this game.
Good luck out
So, hello.
fighting.
There we go. We can barter with him. He doesn't have much to offer because he's just a random soldier, but hey, we can barter with him. We can even buy his hat off him if we want to. There we go. We've got all these different dialogue options, typical to, your average RPG. We can ask him about all sorts of different things.
Bye.
You have a party system with NPCs that, they do talk. They're not just completely voiceless and don't do anything. They do talk. They have their own opinions. They will argue about you with stuff as well, but they won't do the whole rock paper scissors bullshit with you. These two here, they will have a discussion with you, but they will ultimately say, "Yep, okay, whatever you say. That's cool." Whereas, say, Dave here will actually actively argue with you and try and sort of force his own opinion through. So in the vein of something like Baldur's Gate or, Dragon Age or whatever, in those kind of RPGs, yep, you've got party members which do talk and do stuff. I do not yet know if these are the only two party members in the game like this. There may be more later on, I'm not sure. I believe when you get to a certain point in the game, you can hire basically sort of faceless generic henchmen to fill out your ranks if you want to. But as far as I'm aware, these are the only two thus far sort of party members with their own personalities and dialogue and stuff like that. I suppose, this being an RPG, I should comment on the quality of the writing. For the most part, I'd say it's probably average. It's passable. It's okay. The story is alright, I guess. It starts off a bit dull, then it gets a little weird, but not in a particularly compelling sort of a way, if I'm honest. The main compelling thing about this game for me really is the combat, actually, and the exploration and that sort of thing. I'm not terrifically hooked on the story. It's not a Planescape Torment, ultimately, at the end of the day. But, that's fine. It's a different game. It has its own sort of priorities, clearly, in what it wants to do. In this case being focusing on mechanical aspects rather than, narrative stuff. And that's alright, because Planescape Torment, as much as I love that game, its combat and whatnot aren't really that good. This game completely trumps it, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. I guess that's really all I've got to say about this game, I suppose. I apologise for maybe there not being a terrific amount of amazingly exciting gameplay. Let's see if I'll load up this and get into a bit more combat before we leave, so you can have another look at that. But, yeah, sorry if there hasn't been a terrific amount of exciting gameplay, but hey, this isn't a Let's Play, this is a First Impressions video. Unfortunately, it's probably been incredibly long. I've tried to be as brief as I possibly could with this, but I'm not known for my brevity, but yeah, so whatever. If you don't like how long the video is, then don't watch it. As simple as that. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about it, I suppose. Squish you, damn it. Nice, we knocked him down. That's good. Good start. Mages are so annoying, because they can, especially these skeleton ones, because they can resurrect their enemies from the dead again, and constantly healing people, and it's very, very irritating, and I they need to all be destroyed, frankly. Yeah, that's the game in a nutshell, really, I guess. It's what I will say for it is that it wasn't boring. It didn't just decide to be an average run-of-the-mill RPG that we've all seen a million times before. It decided to do things that were new and interesting. You know, it took a lot of old things and sort of reimagined or reinvented or just polished them up, like this combat system. But it did other things like the way the party member interaction, which I've not really seen before in an RPG, to be fair. I applaud them for giving it a go, even if I'm not entirely happy with the result. Yeah, on the whole, fairly solid game. I'll probably keep on playing it. I'll probably keep on playing on easy difficulty, I'll tell you that much. Like I said, if you're really, really into the combat and the mechanics of the game and stats and stuff like that, you're probably going to kick out of that. If you're like me and your difficulty is not necessarily something you're really looking for with an RPG, then, you know, just whack it down on easy and go nuts. You know, the game will still be fairly challenging. I have lost fights on easy difficulty plenty of times, and I've had a lot of close scrapes. But, you know, if you're into the harder stuff, then go for it. I've tried the game on normal difficulty. Most of the time I spent playing it was on normal difficulty. So, however, eventually I just got tired of having to repeat fights 3 or 4 times until I eventually managed to beat them. It was taking too long. So, yeah, fairly solid game on the whole. As RPGs go, it's pretty good. And let's face it, there aren't a lot of RPGs coming out these days. You're a bit starved for them. Good ones, at least. On the whole. And luckily, in this case, you're not going to have to settle for something that's kind of crap. Because it's pretty good. I like this game. I'm probably going to carry on playing it until I eventually finish it or get bored. We'll see. Again, I'm still not entirely sure just how long this game is, but it's keeping me engaged, I'll say that much. It says a lot for a game these days that I can play it out of the box and still be going 9 hours later. That actually is saying a hell of a lot. So that, I suppose, has got going in its favour. Yeah, there we go. What more can I say? Just very compelling experience. If you're the sort of person who enjoys this sort of thing, you probably will have decided for yourself by now whether or not you like the game. It's not without its issues, but I personally feel it's more good than bad. To be honest, I haven't been this sort of indulged in, well, not indulged, what am I talking about, engrossed in an RPG for quite some time, actually. I've been playing this pretty much all day today, and I've been enjoying it solidly. So, yeah. Anyway, that's been it. That's been my first impressions of Divinity Original Sin, as requested by you, the viewers. Critique is, of course, welcome. Constructive critique, that is, of course. Not, you know, bullshit. Sort of, oh, your review sucks. Unsubbed. Kind of nonsense, but hey, it's not going to stop people from doing it, I guess. Yeah, I could probably do more videos like this in the future, if people are interested. If there's a certain game you're interested in that's just come out, you want to hear my take on it, then by all means let me know. If enough people let me know, I might just do a video about it, like I did with this one. You need healing. Anyway, that's it for now, folks. I'll see you again soon. And, you know, happy playing, whatever it is you happen to be playing. If you happen to be playing this, then, you know, have fun, because I am. And I'll see you guys next time.